Hi, everybody, and welcome once again to another of our online lessons. Lesson 4, in actual fact, in our mini festive series. I'm Dr. Chris. I hope you're well. So, loads to do today. We're going to get straight into it. You remember in lesson 3, we started a new festive piece. We wish you a Merry Christmas. I hope it's made sense so far. I thought what we'd do today is to recap where we were in lesson 3. If you remember, we just did the first line. And then what we're going to do is we're going to finish the piece. We're going to look at the second line of music as well today. Okay. So, first of all, let's get into it then. So, switch on your piano or your keyboard, and you can see on screen here we've got the music that we studied in lesson 3. And what we did was we looked at the first line. So, we started here at the beginning, of course, and we looked all the way through until the end. So, I'm going to play you the first part. I'm going to play it a couple of times. Join in if you'd like to, but otherwise you can just have a listen and see how we get on. So we're going to start off with our left hand second finger on C, and it's going to start like this. Here we go. Ready, play. Okay, and we'll do it one more time. From the beginning. Ready, play. Okay, so that was the first line, and it's probably just worth mentioning, of course, that I was reading from left to right, and I was reading both hands at the same time, following the melody as it goes through. So I hope so far that's made sense. What we're going to do now is take a look at the second line. So in terms of the rhythm, the second line is very, very similar to what we've already done. In fact, we clapped the second line in lesson 3. So hopefully by now you've got a good idea about the note lengths and the patterns. All we need to do really is look at the notes. So here we go then, starting from bar 5, there we are. And what's this first note here in the G clef? Well, that note there is one step above the G line, of course. And in actual fact, we've got a finger number here. It says finger 3. So finger 3 on A. And then we're going to continue. Here is a flat sign, B flat. Next bar. Then we change to the left hand here, thumb on D. Then we do 2 C's. And then we're going to move to third finger on G. Thumb on E, F. Okay, I'll do exactly the same one more time. So again, from the beginning of bar 5. Third finger on A. Next bar. Next bar. So you can start to hear it making shape. And you notice here in the bar before the end, it says move hand down. Well, what does that mean? Well, have a look. I'm going to play the second line and see what happens as I play. From bar 5. Now, did you notice there, about the point where the music indicated move my hand down, my right hand did move down a little bit. Watch, do that one more time. From bar 5, here we go. Move my hand down. And that's why fingering and finger numbers is so important. It's really important to observe finger numbers when you get them, because often when you see a finger number, it means that your hand is going to have to move from the position it's already in. Okay, it's always a good indicator that something's going to change. Right, so I'm going to play the whole piece for you now. And of course, what you can do is when we finish this live broadcast, you can rewind and play this part again to have a listen to the whole piece. So here's the whole thing. And as I play it, I'm also going to think about making it a performance. If you remember last session, we talked about the difference between practicing something, working on individual bars, starting slowly and doing lots of repetition. And that is different to performing a piece. Now, when I get to performing a piece, I'm really talking about communicating the character. Now, with something like We Wish You a Merry Christmas, obviously, Merry Christmas is going to be a happy piece. I'm probably going to try and play it a little bit quicker. Just going to try and communicate that sense of a happy time through the music. So hopefully, I would do something a little bit like this from the very beginning. Second finger on C, middle C in the left hand. Here we go. From the very beginning here. Here we go. Ready, play. Something like that would be classed as a pretty good performance. It was lively. It was it had almost like a dance element to it as well. It made you want to get up with your champagne in one hand and do a little jig around the room, perhaps. But that was the character of the piece, and it's really important to try and express that if you can. We're going to try and play another piece together as well. I thought it'd be really nice if we could try and just cram in one more in this series. So we're going to play a very different contrasting piece in actual fact. We're going to have a go at Silent Night. Okay. Now, today's lesson is going to focus pretty much on the right hand, but towards the end today you'll see me play a right hand and a left hand. But for what we're going to do, it's going to be mostly right hand to begin with. Okay. Now, you probably know Silent Night. Let's play you a little bit of it, just so as you can recognize it. You've no doubt heard this before. And so on and so on. That's the beginning. So why don't we try that? Okay, we'll just do one hand. Let's just do the melody, which is in the right hand. And we're going to try and play this together, okay? But don't worry too much about reading the music. Let's just have a go at this. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to play that without looking at the music first, okay? There's a couple of things we need to talk about first of all. Firstly, where does it begin? Well, it starts off on the G above middle C. We should know that note now. Middle C, of course, is here. And we're going to play C, D, E, F, G. Okay, so that's the beginning note. And you may have noticed that actually this piece is in, well, sort of 4 phrases, I guess. The first phrase is this. Second phrase, well, that's the same as the beginning. And then we have so just thinking about those last 2 phrases, it starts off, of course, on a fairly high note. And that's a D, okay? Now, if you have a look at the piano keyboard here, of course, we've got middle C. And also, we can go one step higher, one octave higher to the next C up. And if we go a step above that, we get to D here, okay? So the important point here is to think about middle C, C an octave higher, and then we need to just go one more step there, okay? So what I'd like you to do is a little exercise for me, okay? We're going to start off by finding G and D, okay? Here is G, and here is D. Okay, so in both cases, can you put your third finger, please, on those two notes? Here we go with G, and here we go with D. Okay, play those when you've got them. Let's do it one more time. G, and then up to D. Okay, great. All right, let me show you this first phrase then. So it's going to start on G, and this is the phrase I want you to try. And we did 3, 4, 3, 1. Let's try and think about the note names for that bit. It goes G, A, G, E. Okay, G, A, G, E. Okay, do you want to try that? Let's try that a couple of times. Ready? Starting on G. Ready? Third finger on G. Ready, steady, play. G, A, G, E. Okay, this time I'll tell you the finger numbers instead. Okay, here we go. Okay, starting on third finger. Ready, steady, play. 3, 4, 3, 1. Okay, lastly, let's do it together. No talking. On G. Ready, steady, go. Okay, great. Well, then, of course, you get a sort of 2 for 1 because the second phrase is the same thing. Here's the first phrase. And here's phrase 2. They're the same. Right, let's do that. Just the once. We don't need it just to do the once. Ready? Starting on G. From the beginning, first 2 phrases. Ready, steady, go. Great. Okay, well done so far. Now we need to find that very high note, the D. Remember that D up here? Okay. And let's actually put our fifth finger, little finger, on D. Watch this. We're going to go 5, 5, 3. And then 4, 4, 1. Okay. 5, 5, 3. Watch. 4, 4, 1. Okay. Okay, join in this time if you haven't already. Starting with the fifth finger on D. Got that? Okay, here we go. Ready, steady, go. 5, 5, 3, 4, 4, 1. One more time without me talking. Ready? Fifth finger on D. Ready, steady, go. Great. Okay, let's try the whole of that part from the beginning. Okay, starting with third finger on G. I'll play it for you twice. First time, just have a listen to it and watch the notes. Second time, try and join in. Here we go then. So third finger on G. Ready, steady, go. Up to D. C. Okay, one more go. Here we go. Third finger on G. Ready, steady, go. That's great. Well, congratulations if you've got that far. You've actually learned a third of the piece already. Okay, so Silent Night is one of my favourite pieces of Christmas music. I think it's a really lovely melody. It's quite complicated though to learn by rote. You've got a great start there, but what we need to do is have a look at the music to see where we go from here. Now, before we do, just a bit of a recap, okay? So, so far we have looked at, in the G Clef, we've looked at reading notes, starting with this one here, of course, which is middle C, and we go up to D, then to E, then to F, and then to G. There's G on the G line. Okay, so could you play those for me? Okay, we're going to start from middle C. Here we go. Can you say the letter name as you play it? Ready? Starting from the beginning. Ready, steady, go. C, D, E, F, G. Brilliant. Okay. Well, today what we're going to do is look a little bit at something we've just talked about actually, which is not these 5 notes here, but taking it all up an octave, starting from a C 1 octave above. We're going to look at those and how you write it on the G Clef. Okay, so how do you write those? Well, let me show you. Here we go. So you can see the first 5 here, we already know. Okay, now the most important note you need to look at is this note here. Okay, look, it's on the 3rd space from the bottom. Okay, there's the bottom space, 2nd space up, 3rd space up. Now that note there is C, what we call C above middle C. Okay, here is middle C, here is C above. Okay, so what I'd like you to do, please, is do the same thing as we've just done. We're going to start from here, and we're going to go D, there we are, E, F. Okay, just 4 notes this time. C, D, E, F. There we are. Okay. All right, one more time if you haven't played already, and please say the letter names as we're doing it, starting here. Okay, C, D, E, F. Okay, and as I previously said, don't worry about trying to memorize all those notes. Okay, it's just not going to work. The only one you need to really remember is this one here, C in the 3rd space. So what we've done is added to our signpost notes in the left hand, in the right hand. Signpost notes in the right hand. Let's get it right, Chris. Okay, we have middle C. I was thinking ahead before I was speaking. Middle C here. And then this note here on the 2nd line up is G. And then the new one today is this note here in the 3rd space, C. Okay, so pick a finger. Let's do our index finger. Let's do finger number 2. And we're going to play these 3 notes. Okay, and please say them one after the other, starting with this one here. Okay, so we'll do C, then we'll do G, and then we'll do C. And it's really those 3 that you should try and commit to memory, because everything else you can kind of work out relative to those 3 signpost notes. Okay, good. So using that new knowledge then, let's go back and have a little look into Silent Night. Okay. So what I've done here is I've written out the first part of the melody. This is the bit we've just learnt. We did this by rote just now. So as I play it, hopefully some of this should make sense. Now you're probably looking at this thinking, oh, what are all these curvy lines here? Okay, well that's a good question. We haven't talked about that so far. The answer is that they are what's called phrase marks. Okay, a little bit like full stops in text. When you see a full stop, that's the end of a phrase. When you get to the end of a curvy line like this, a phrase mark, that is a full stop. Okay, it's where you should take a breath before continuing with the next phrase. Okay, the other thing to mention about this is we have a new note length. Okay, look at this note here. Let's see if I can just draw a little circle around this one. Here it is. Okay, that's new. It looks like a 2-beat note. It isn't. It's actually a 3-beat note because it has a little dot just after it. Okay, the dot, although it's small, has a big impact because the dot says make this note larger, longer, by exactly half again. So if the note you're looking at originally was a 2-beat note, like this one, of course, if you add half on, you're adding an extra 1. And altogether, of course, that makes a 3-beat note. So that's a 3-beat note is the answer, okay? More dotted notes to come. But for now, I'm just going to walk you through how I would read this. So, starting from the beginning, okay, here, this note we should be fairly familiar with by now, of course. It's G on the G line. There's the G line. And look, we've got our finger 3 written up there, so we know to play here. I'm going to play the first phrase for you. So I'm going to start at the beginning, and I'm going to play all the way to the end here, holding this new note for 3 beats. Okay, here we go. Follow me. 1, 2, 3. Here it is again. 1, 2, 3. 2, 3. Okay, great. And the second phrase here is exactly the same. So if I start here, I'm going to play the same. And then if I move down to the second line, let's play this phrase here, starting with 5th finger on D. Ready, steady, go. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And the next phrase, notice, there we go, it's our new C note on the 3rd space up. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So altogether, this music here sounds like this. 1, 2, 3. So what we're looking at here is a simplified version of Silent Night. If I play what's on the music, there is something missing. Of course, the rhythm isn't quite right. What we're really listening for in the famous version is this. And to get that, we need to talk about one more rhythmic feature, which is used very much in music. So earlier we talked about how a dot added to a 2-beat note can make 3 beats altogether. And what we need to do is think about another note value which uses a dot. But before we do that, we're just going to do a little bit of a recap. Remember in our previous lessons we talked about these time values. We talked about over here a 1-beat note, and over here we have a 1-beat note essentially cut into 2 halves. Okay, so here's our first beat, and here's our second beat, and our second beat, as you can see here, is cut into 2. Now if I was to clap the entire page here, it would sound like this: ta, te, te. Okay, and we've done that before, and hopefully by now that makes some sense. What I want to do today is talk about a different way of interpreting that rhythm. Instead of saying ta, te, te, I'd like you to try this. I'd like you to try and think of 1 and 2 and. And the best way I can describe it is to think about the beats in terms of cakes. I've said this before that I love cake, and so that analogy works really well for me. Our first beat here is a whole cake. And think of the cake as being sliced into 2 halves but kept in the same box altogether. So we're going to say 1 and, okay? 2 halves but said together, 1 and. That's our whole cake. Our second beat, however, is 2 halves separated. So here we have 2 and, okay? And you can clearly hear there the separate halves, all right? So just to recap then, if I was going to count in this new way, it would, from the beginning here, it would sound like this: 1 and 2 and. Can you do that with me? Ready? We'll do the same thing. Ready, steady, and. 1 and 2 and. Great. Okay. Now that's important, because if you can count beats like that, what comes next will be a lot easier. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to join the first beat to the beginning of the second beat here, like that, with the curvy line. In actual fact, the curvy line is called a tie, okay? So imagine you've tied something together and you're on the right lines. Now what this does is it affects the beginning of our second beat here. And what we would be doing is we clap the first beat as normal and we count the beginning of the second beat, but we don't play it again. So now it would sound, if I was clapping it, like this. 1 and 2 and. So I counted this beginning of the second beat, I counted 2, I didn't play it. And if I was going to play it on the piano, it would sound like this. 1 and 2 and. And notice how that makes the first note that we hear longer. 1, 2, and. Okay. Now, we could do that in Silent Night. We could use ties, okay? But there's actually a musical convention for a 1.5 beat note, okay? It's one of these, a dotted crotchet, okay? A dotted crotchet is what you see here. It's one whole cake plus an extra half, okay? So it's just a different way of writing it. Sounds the same. Listen. 1 and 2 and. And that last and was this note here, okay? A quaver all by itself, the last half of the second beat, the second cake. So if I clap the whole of this page, it will sound fairly familiar. 1 and 2 and, okay? It sounds just like the tie, but we're instead using a dotted crotchet to show 1 and an extra half beats, okay? A 1.5 beat note. And it's the 1.5 beat notes which we're going to find all the way through Silent Night. So let's have a look at the score. Here it is, and you can see that what I've done here in the first bar is I've actually used dotted crotchets followed by a quaver. And if I play this bar for you here and count the beats just like we've been doing, hopefully it will make sense. So we're going to play this. 1, 2, 3. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and. Notice I went on to this bar here and I played a 3 beat note. Let's try that one more time, okay? From the beginning. Here we go. Ready, steady, and. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and. Okay, now, do you remember when we were doing this by rote, we realized the first phrase, here's the first phrase, and the second phrase, they were exactly the same. So, are you ready? We're going to try the whole of the first line, okay? Third finger on G. We're going to play it a little slower and try and count with me so we get those dotted crotchet quaver rhythms right. I'll play it for you once and then you can join in with me, okay? Here we go. Third finger on G. Ready, steady, go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and. Okay, great. So on to the second line now. And again, we have learnt this earlier on. Of course, remember the new note here, the high D? That one there? Okay. No dotted crotchet rhythms here, so we should be fairly okay with this. I'll play it for you once and see if you can join in with me, okay? We're going to now begin from the second line. Here we go with this note here, fifth finger on D. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and. Okay, let's keep going, okay? On to the next part. We've not looked at this before. Let's first of all think about the rhythm, and let's just do the top line here, okay? And I'm going to clap the rhythm for you, okay? And of course, what you could do right now is pause it, have a go, and see if you get it right. Okay, try and pause it. Of course, if this is the live session, you won't be able to, but on the replay, it'll be fine. Okay, right, so here it is then. Okay, the top of this page, just clapping the rhythms, counting 1 and 2 and 3 and. Okay, here we go. Ready, steady, go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and. Okay, right, so notes next, okay? Well, our first note here is one step above the G line. So here's G. We're going to start one step above, which is going to be A. And it's going to be this. Notice how we're going to play with our second finger to start with. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and. Okay, do you remember earlier on I said that watch out for finger numbers because they often mean that your hand will have to change position. And it did. I don't know whether you noticed, but in the third bar here, I had to use a third finger on the A rather than what I was doing earlier, of course, here, which was finger 2 on A. You see that's the same note between here and here, same note but different fingers. Okay, watch out for that. Okay, right. A little bit complex, but the reward is, I don't know whether you've noticed this already, but the next line down is exactly the same. Same rhythm, same notes, which is great. Again, 2 for 1. You don't have to worry about learning that particular phrase. You've already done it, okay? But it might help to practice playing the top line and the second line as well in this screen, okay? Let's go on to the next screen, the last screen. Here we go. And we're going to start off with this note here. Again, let's clap the rhythm, okay? Let's just try the top line here. Fairly straightforward this. Have a quick look. We're just going to do it the once. Okay, here we go. Ready? Clapping. 1, 2, go. 1, 2, 3. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3. Okay. Of course, rewind if you need to. Look at the notes. Okay, what's this first note here? Well, it's one step above the third space. Do you remember the new note that went in the third space? Yeah, high C. There it is. Okay, so we don't need that one. We want one step above, which is D, with our third finger. Okay, I'll play this for you once and then join in if you can. Okay, third finger on D. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, great, well done. We're on to the last line now, okay? Should we do the clapping first? Probably a good idea. So starting from here, okay, the last line, reading across there. Watch out, we've got dotted crotchet here, haven't we? Okay, so from the beginning, I'll clap it for you once, have a listen and see if you can follow it, and then try with me, okay? Just the clapping of the last line. Here we go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and. Okay? Okay, join in with me. Ready? Here we go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and. Okay, great. Let's just try the notes to finish off with then. So the first note here where the red dot is, it's in the third space. It's the new C we learnt today. Now we've got quite a few finger numbers here. So watch this. Notice how we go from 5, 2, 1, change hand position, 4. So we're going to go 5, 2, 1, 4, 3, 2, 1, like that. Okay. So the notes are C, G, E, G, F, D, C, middle C at the end. Okay, here it is twice for you. 1, 2, 3, go. 1, 2, and 3, and one last time, starting on C. Here we go. Ready, steady, go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 1 and 2 and 3 and. Okay, and we've reached the end of the piece with the right hand. Now, I did say that there was a left hand. Sadly, there isn't time for me to go into the left hand in as much detail, but maybe if you're feeling fairly confident with the left hand, you could have a go, of course, when you're able to and when you can play back this video. I did make a couple of notes about the left hand for you. I will play it for you, the whole piece to finish off with. But just a couple of things to notice. In the left hand, you can see, first of all, where's my pen? Let's see if I can get the pen going. We've got mostly, if you take, for example, the first bar here, mostly 3-beat notes. And in a bar like this, where you've got 2 notes on top of each other, it means play them together. So, for example, the first 2 notes there are C and E. We've done those before, and they will be here, played together. Okay. Finger numbers, just like in the right hand, are really important. When I play it in a minute, watch my left hand. You'll see it jumping around the keyboard a little bit, and finger numbers are a warning, really, to say, hey, just double check that you're in the right place and using the right fingers, because you'll have to move around a little bit. Ties. We talked about ties earlier in the right hand, and you'll see some curvy lines in the left hand. That join notes together. So instead of them being 3 beats, it's 3 beats plus 3 beats. So watch out for those. And the other thing is there is one bar where there is a sharp. Okay, in the left hand, we talked about sharps in lesson 3. It's where you go for the black note on the right hand side. So here we go then. Silent Night, the whole thing, and I'll see you next time.